So welcome everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Gaia and I am the Programme Manager at IB1. So in terms of what to expect today, I'll be welcoming you all into the room, talking a little bit about IB1's mission. Emily, one of our researchers in Open Energy, will be talking through the proposal for Open Energy, and Rosie from Passive Systems, who's one of our partners on this project, will be talking through a user's perspective, and we'll be hearing from Frank about where you might fit into Open Energy. So just to recap, IB1's mission is to empower, vision is to empower decision makers to mandate, measure and act upon the data flows that enable net zero by making data work harder to deliver net zero. And our projects are aimed at leveraging the power of data infrastructure to enable a transition to a net zero economy. So Open Energy is one of these projects. So it aims to revolutionize the way energy data is shared in the UK and create an energy data ecosystem that works for everyone. So it's a new live service that will enable you to seamlessly search for, share and access shared data easily and securely. And what we're going to be talking about today is what to expect from Open Energy and setting out its potential value for users. And we'll be sharing a little bit of an early preview. There's going to be time for questions at the end. We'd like to hear from all of you, so please do post questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll set out the different ways that you can get involved as we go as well. And so on that note, I'm going to pass over to Emily.
Thanks very much, Gaia. So I'm Emily and I'm on the research team in Open Energy, and I'm going to be talking briefly through the key features and benefits of becoming a member of the Open Energy ecosystem. So first of all, Open Energy is broadly made up of three components. We have our search, our governance platform, and our membership, of course, as you can see on the slide. So I'll talk these through these very quickly. First of all, the search basically does what it says on the tin. It is a search function designed specifically to search for data sets, and it aims to improve the discoverability, particularly of published data. It's totally free and open for all to use, and users can filter searches according to different requirements. For example, you can search by specific geographic areas. When you have the results from the search, these will show both open and shared data sets, with the shared data sets further broken down into different sensitivity classes. These sensitivity classes are actually something we're consulting on at the moment. I'll drop the link in the chat after I finish speaking. Very happy to hear your thoughts if you'd like to share. And we envisage that data providers in the ecosystem will self-allocate their data sets to an appropriate sensitivity class on the basis of some Open Energy guidance that will supplement the work of the Data Task Force and Modernising Energy Data Collaboration. So that's search. Moving on to data access. For open data, users will be directed straight to the data sets. That might be a download or an API, for example, with no access controls. Really important to emphasize here that we are not trying, even inadvertently, to create additional barriers to open data access. We're just trying to make it easier to find and use. If it's shared data, though, Open Energy members will be able to access this via the governance platform. Basically, what this means is that non-members will be able to see where shared data sets exist, but they won't get the benefits that members will around automated access and preemptive licensing that are facilitated by the platform. So what is the platform? This is essentially a set of technical policy and legal tools governing member accreditation and shared data access and licensing. So members first must be accredited, so they must onboard the Open Energy ecosystem to be able to use the platform. Once they've done this, they will then be able to access different data classes depending on whether they have met certain requirements that are associated with and proportionate to the different sensitivities of data class. Access to the appropriate classes can then become, in the most part, automated with conditions of data use governed by a set of preemptive licenses that are chosen by the data providers when they upload their data. We'll be consulting on the data access model and also licensing over the next couple of months. So again, please get involved, contact us. We'd love to have your thoughts on this. And as I mentioned before, the final component of Open Energy is membership, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail if we could move to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So on the left-hand side, we have a recap of the 8 core membership benefits that we've articulated, both ourselves and also kind of in combination with our advisory groups over the last few phases. I've covered the top 2, but to go through the rest of them. What we mean by trust is that all members can be confident that other members in the ecosystem are actually who they claim to be and have been authorised to participate in the ecosystem within a clear set of parameters. This leads to a system of strong control, whereby data providers only share what they actually intend to share, and those accessing data only receive what they require and what they're authorised to see. We hope that this will lead to a system of increased efficiency in data sharing, offering members lower overall costs in terms of negotiating contract agrees, integration, internal resourcing requirements, and of course, reducing time costs as well by reducing just the sheer number of bilateral contracts that have to be negotiated for data sharing. What we hope is that this will create a reliable service with agreed service levels for performance and availability, and also a testing environment that will be particularly helpful for new members. We aim to create a compliant service, of course, with data protection regulations, but also to help members in the energy sector meet new and emerging regulatory obligations around data sharing, plus, of course, data sharing that will help meet sustainability goals overall. And the final thing that we hope will offer members is competitive advantage, which essentially means that through less kind of frictionful access to data, will help them take advantage of data-driven innovation and new opportunities emerging from the broader smart data landscape. So that's the benefits. Just to finish off for me, on the right-hand side, I've listed 3 guiding principles that are helping us create our membership pricing structure. We're currently doing this in consultation with our advisory groups, and we'll release to the sector later on in phase 3. So the 3 principles guiding this are non-profit, proportionality and inclusivity. And what this means for members is that services and pricing will be established through extensive consultation. So by the sector for the sector is basically our motto. Any surplus will be invested straight back into improving our services, and fees will reflect organisations' ability to pay, with the aim of ensuring that no organisation is priced out, and hope basically that this will create an ecosystem where organisations like charities and universities are just as welcome as larger businesses that are well established in the sector. The other thing that we hope is that in this kind of striving for inclusivity, we will boost the environmental and social co-benefits of our ecosystem by enabling more organisations to improve their data usage and working towards net zero. So that's all from me. I'm happy to take questions at the end. And as I've said several times, please get in touch if you have any thoughts on what I've said today, or you'd like to be involved in the consultations. We really need your feedback. Plus, of course, we're going to be putting feelers out there for people wanting to get involved in our public beta testing phases, and of course, as members in due course. So yeah, thank you very much. Over back to Gaia, I think.
Thank you, Emily. That was an excellent summary, and we'll be talking to you about how you can get involved throughout this as well, and who you can contact. So off the back of that, there's another poll that we'd like your feedback on. So if we can launch the next poll, please. So here we're interested in finding out what the benefit to your business is that most excites you. So I'll just give it a few seconds to give everyone a minute to respond to that, and then we'll move on. This is exciting. It looks like simpler data access and easier data discovery are coming up as the top options so far. Great, so 5 more seconds if anyone else wants to quickly vote. Great, and at that point, I will close the poll, and if we can share the results back. So as we can see here, simpler data access has won, closely followed by easier data discovery. So I think we can see what it is that most people are really interested in. And on that note, I will pass to Rosie.
Thanks so much, Gaia. And that poll kind of echoes exactly some of the messages I was hoping to get across in the next few minutes. So thank you for doing my job for me. And so thanks to everybody for joining this afternoon. This session is really important in terms of articulating how open energy can really benefit our future customers. And I think for me, when I look at what the framework that open energy kind of enables, it really will accelerate the ability of our combined authorities and local authorities to move forward with climate change delivery planning. What's going to be a challenge for all of us when we're thinking through how we tackle, the decarbonisation of heat and transport is exactly where technology should be deployed, at what time and at what scale. And some of the work that I've been doing as part of a project in Bridgend, is looking at a local energy market for Bridgend in Wales, and how bringing together different technology vectors could transform Bridgend into becoming a net zero environment. And one of the areas that we've been looking at is how we get access to localized constraint information from the distribution network operator Western Power Distribution, who are undergoing a digital transformation as we speak, in terms of looking at how they can make their data more accessible, but also how we can look at things like housing stock, we can look at kind of the location of assets. And fundamental to this is actually trying to work through a faster approach to data search, having trusted environments that we're able to go to, and indeed understanding kind of the architectures within which we can operate. And fundamental to the open energy architecture is providing that pipeline of data access. So as we know, open energy is not going to be a data portal. It's not going to be a lake of data. Really, this is around providing the kind of the pipeline of access to data. So if it's open data, I'll be able to effectively get hold of the information I'm looking for immediately. If it's shared data, I'll be going through a process whereby trusted providers of data who have signed up to the Open Energy Directory have gone through the access process. They demonstrated that they are a member of the open energy ecosystem, and I'll then be able to go to a trusted area to get access to the relevant data sets that I need in order to be able to provide effectively authentic, localized, place-based data that will support local councillors in making recommendations as to what kind of tech should be deployed, where it should be deployed, and when. And what's really important as we move forward with net zero and tackling the climate emergency is that we're able to refer back to trusted, authentic data sets that are meaningful, that we can then use in visualization tools to talk to our local citizens about. So again, it's really important that when we're thinking about how we communicate to our communities around climate change, that we can point to authenticated data sources that actually are real, that we can reference specific localities in terms of whether it's LSOA data or MSOA data in relation to particular geography, and we can really bring to life the changes that we're seeking to deploy at a local level. So just in summary, in terms of what we're seeking to achieve, when we're thinking about local authorities deploying local area energy plans, it's about having easy access to authentic, trusted sources of data that we can then meaningfully communicate to decision makers internally within local authorities around the best places to site different renewable technologies and at what pace, at what speed, in order to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind as we move forward towards net zero. And I'm now going to pass back to Gaia.
Thank you, Rosie. That was a really helpful summary, and I think it's a really, really important point. So at this point, I'm going to pass to Frank, who will talk us through where you fit into the open energy ecosystem. Frank.
Thank you, Gaia. Hello, everyone. So this slightly busy diagram, which is actually a simplified version of another diagram we're using internally, kind of just is intended to lay out in a very high level way the major participants that we see in open energy and how they fit together. So the grey box that says open energy ecosystem is what we are taking part in, and the services that Emily has spoken about already, such as the directory of members, search, and so forth, they're all in there and they're what we are providing. Now, below that, there's a yellow box, which is data providers, and they are where we get the data from. They are the lake that we are providing the plumbing for to bring it to service providers and ultimately their customers. So we're expecting that we will, through a process where we work with the data providers to bring them into the system such that we understand what their data sets are. We'll be doing that by having metadata from them, which is then used to drive our search capability. But remember that they continue to host the data where we don't hold the data, which means that the rules for who gets access to that data also ultimately sits with the data providers. But what we provide via the membership directory and the different access levels we provide dynamic information for service providers who wish to get access to data through the secured API, that we provide the appropriate credentials and other information such that the data provider knows who's trying to come in and what they're allowed to have access to. And that particular part of the ecosystem is based on technology that's already been proven to work in open banking. One of the differences between open banking and open energy, in fact, one of the key differences, is that in open banking, the data that is accessed is customer data, and it's the customer who controls who gets to see it. And they basically say to the banks, it's okay for me to, it's okay for you to allow this third party to get access to this data. Whereas in open energy, it's not like that. The data providers own the data, whereas the service providers and potentially other users outside the open energy ecosystem who wish to get access to data, they are the ones who are requesting access, but they don't own it. And so that shift in where the ownership versus permissioning operates is a key difference between open energy and open banking. And it's one of the things we've been working on to make sure that we're getting both the access controls and the access mechanisms right. Now, you may also see in this diagram that we expect data providers may have shared data and open data. We are anticipating indexing both of those, but then providing licensing and other details against the shared data, as well as also providing the credentials to members of Open Energy so that they can access that data. The service providers themselves, we're expecting to be organizations that are experts in finding data and using it to solve problems for their customers, although in principle, there's nothing to stop in other organizations who aren't service providers from also registering on the directory so that they too can get access to shared data if they wish to. Basically, as I said, this diagram is a very high level thing, but I'm hoping that the key places where each organization may participate is relatively clear. If you're a provider, you're a service provider, you're a customer of a service provider, or you're some other open data user who is using the search to discover open data sets rather than shared data sets. I think it's also, one other thing is the, oh, I've done that one, sorry. I'm not sure that there's anything else to say on this at present, simply because it's intending to let you just see into this. One of the things in the corner of the diagram is, of course, they sign up for member services, because that's also something we will be providing through our platform. One of the things we expect to be providing is some kind of status and other information on the APIs we're aware of, so that it becomes possible for there to be a potential for feedback and other information about when they're available, how often they're updated, and so forth. Much as open banking also provides the operational guidance for open banking, it leans quite heavily into status information and other information so that you know when the APIs are available. And we're anticipating something similar within Open Energy. With all of this, we would love to know the kinds of information that would make sense to you, either as a data provider or as a service provider, or as a potential user of this infrastructure, so that we can be prioritizing the work that we do to make sure that we are meeting your needs as well as we can. I think with that, I'll hand back to Gaia.
Perfect. Thank you, Frank. So we have a little bit of time for Q&A, which I'll be coming to in a second. And we just have a final poll for you all about how much you think this has helped you actually communicate things. So if we can launch the final poll. And whilst I give you a second to respond to that, I'm just going to highlight a couple of different ways that you all can get involved. So we have consultations that Emily has mentioned. We have questions for you in general. We'd like to make sure we're addressing your needs, as Frank and Rosie have both touched upon. So if you'd like to get involved and join in the consultation, the link for that is on this slide, and also will be available via our website, of course. If you would like to join us as a beta tester, you can email us at openenergy@icebreaker1.org and let us know, basically, and we'll be in touch. And also, please just generally help us get the word out about this so that we can reach far and wide and make sure that we have managed to address as many needs as possible. And just to highlight with the polls, I will give it 5 more seconds. There are 2 polls that we've launched about how you would rate your understanding of open energy now and how confident you would feel describing this to your colleagues. And so I'll give you 3 more seconds, and then if we can share the results. And in terms of questions, so my first question, I'm actually going to direct towards Rosie. I'm aware of the fact that we have 5 minutes left, so we'll be doing quite quick fire ones. And so this one's from Nadia saying, what do you think the key opportunity for a combined authority to gain from open data is? It's something we're interested in from a local area energy planning and net zero perspective. So Rosie.
I think just really briefly, it will be that what the architecture will facilitate is basically the ability to search out super relevant local data sets. So being able to get information from, it'll be Northern Power Grid if it's kind of Manchester area, be able to get it in order to help with looking at a localized deployment of different low carbon tech. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Rosie. And just to reassure all of you, if your questions aren't answered today, they will be answered throughout. And so we are keeping a record of all of these, so please keep them coming. So we also have a question around, are we looking to forward to cooperating and to replicating this model to other EU countries, and who could you contact? Well, that's a really interesting one, and we definitely are looking at taking this wider than just the UK. Obviously, Open Energy Phase 3 is focused just on the UK, but please do get in touch with us via openenergy@icebreaker1.org and we can have that conversation. So I also have a question for Frank. So Frank, when will this be available?
That's a good question. Right now we are in the process of deploying the infrastructure we need to support the beta users that we're bringing on board by the end of this month. But there will be quite a lot of manual work around those, because we are working out some details of things like the onboarding processes and support processes and so forth. But we're expecting possibly by towards the end of May that we would start to bring in the limited public beta users as well, at which point there will be enough already in place to allow the full end-to-end experience. We already have a fully operating directory. We already have a prototype search system, which we're now in the process of rejigging to more closely integrate with the directory and more closely meet the needs of Open Energy as we get the feedback, particularly from Emily and others who've been trying to get everyone to think through data models, classification models, categorization, and so forth, all of which are critical to the setup of the search system. So within a few iterations, we do 2 weekly iterations. We're expecting to have limited public beta users, and the overall plan is to be ready to have to be fully live by the end of July.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank. I think there's a couple of questions coming through in the chat about the different ways you can get in touch with us and how you can get involved. And just to reiterate, we will post the email in the chat, but please do get in touch with us via openenergy@icebreaker1.org.uk, and also go to the bit.ly link to sign up for the review track. And with our last 2 minutes, I will just pass a quick question to Emily. Emily, are you aware of anything else out there that's like Open Energy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I noticed that someone else had posted about Gaia X initiative in the chat. As far as I know, that doesn't have a UK hub yet. I'm not super up to date with the project, so it may have progressed since I last saw it. But if you have a contact with them and you think they'd like to get involved, again, please connect us. But in terms of similar projects in the UK, not really. The main thing about this is that sometimes we're misconstrued as becoming a platform that hosts data or some kind of data portal, and fundamentally we're not. So we essentially, if you think about us like plumbing, we build the pipes, we don't actually have the water, we don't host or own any of the data that we are sharing. We're just facilitating easier and less kind of friction in the access process. And the other thing as well is we're very, very open to working with data portals and data platforms like this, if they would find it useful to share their data through our infrastructure as well as their own. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Emily. And that brings us to exactly 2:30, which means I will close this webinar. Thank you all for coming today. And if you do have feedback, if you have things to let us know about, if you just want to get in touch or offer your opinions in the consultations, please do. It's really important that we get as much feedback as possible. Have a good afternoon, everyone.